Today we are visiting the two community gardens in the northern end of the township that are sponsored by the Franklin Township Council and the Franklin Township Environmental Commission through federal and state community development block grants. Both gardens are organic. The first is Naaman Williams Community Garden on the edge of Naaman Williams Park. The gardeners here are primarily senior citizens, along with a few nearby families. This garden has over 30 raised plots measuring 10 feet by 20 feet and about 18 individual gardeners and families. The garden has been very successful this year, and more gardeners have already signed up for next season. Most gardeners are here every day, working in their gardens and reaping the benefits of fresh air, exercise, companionship, and, of course, taking home lots of healthy vegetables, both for themselves and to share with others. Gardener Carolyn Smith has volunteered to serve as the coordinator of this garden. She is explaining that she assigns plots, maintains the waiting list, manages the keys, and ensures the upkeep of the garden. Now let's meet a few of the other gardeners. O'Neill Montez is happy to take us through his thriving plot of different vegetables. Tomatoes, lettuce, beans, squash, cabbage, cucumbers, melons, and herbs like basil, parsley, and cilantro. Now O'Neill is stepping carefully into another of his plots to share with us two problems that every gardener faces. First, the plant that fails to grow, like these green peas, which suffered from too much rain and are now hidden from view by happier plants. And second, that bane of every garden, weeds, which must be pulled regularly. This fine stand of corn belongs to gardener Bobby Burton, who says that he plants a little of everything and enjoys watching to see what happens. His peanuts were not successful, but just about everything else is growing abundantly. Collard greens, carrots, okra, kale, beans, and at least one perfect cabbage. Here he is helping us to find the golden treasure hidden under this thick canopy of green leaves. Gardener Eitan Lindvall knows exactly where everything is in his plot of well-staked and thriving plants. His wide variety includes tomatoes, beans, peppers, corn, okra, and that Jamaican specialty, red peas, which are similar to kidney beans and are a staple of Jamaican cooking. Ruth Sproul's garden is rather more sprawling than Eitan's, but she has been gardening in this corner for several years, so she must be doing something right. Her okra, squash, corn, beans, and black-eyed peas are all thriving. She says she learned growing up on her grandfather's farm in Virginia. She is particularly proud of the tomato plant in the corner, which she transplanted from a pot on her porch. And now that we've met a few gardeners, let's take a look at the variety of vegetables growing throughout Naaman Williams Community Garden. You will recognize most of them, and probably wish you could pick a few for yourselves. Are you wondering what this delicate pale yellow trumpet flower might be? Let's look a little closer and discover that it's an okra blossom with a green okra pod growing just beneath. A fine patch of melons, tangled in their vines. Nearby, the sun is shining on O'Neill's perfect pumpkin. A full plot of popular and healthy kale. Some gardeners like their tomatoes well supported by stakes and heavy string. While others prefer the more natural look. A neatly arranged garden bed with many good things to eat. Burgeoning canopies of green hide many treasures. Carolyn, who is changed into gardening clothes, is showing us that collard greens can grow large and tall, almost like bushes. But she prefers the smaller ones that grow closer to the ground, next to other vegetables. Marigolds repel garden pests, which helps to keep these green bean plants healthy. These staked peppers seem to be standing guard over this bed of callaloo. A Jamaican plant similar to our collard greens. And these are purple tomatoes, not baby eggplant. Now let's see what our gardeners are harvesting. Bobby Burton has just dug up some of his carrots, which he is washing at the water faucet the township installed earlier this year. Gardener Ernest Wilson takes a break from watering his tomatoes to explain the importance of the newly installed water line. Previously, gardeners had to carry their own buckets of water into the garden by themselves, but now that water is easily available, the plants are all much healthier and happier, as you can see by his full and beautiful plot of okra, black-eyed peas, collard greens, and he'll be having these peppers for dinner tonight. Mr. Wilson's visiting granddaughter Annie knows just what she would like to bring home from Grandpa's garden. One of his delicious sweet melons. O'Neill Montez seems very pleased with today's harvest of cucumbers and green tomatoes. Mr. Burton is picking one of his yellow crookneck squash. And now he's describing how he will steam it for dinner this evening. And here is a gardener we haven't met before, Titus Mwenge, standing here in front of his own abundant vegetable plots. His wife has asked him to bring home some fresh kale and collard greens for their family supper this evening. And as a final treat before we leave the Naaman Williams Community Garden, O'Neill Montez is showing us his favorite way to harvest cilantro. With the machete. And his favorite way to eat cilantro, fresh from the garden. Our second garden is the Common Ground Community Garden on the grounds of Pine Grove Manor School. This organic garden began as a school science project, with the children planting seeds, then following their growth over the school year into vegetables and flowers. Many parents became interested in this project and asked if families could continue the garden experiment through the summer and include members of the surrounding neighborhood. So this is very much a family garden, with children encouraged to participate. As you can see, Ella and her younger sister Claire are happy to join their mother and other grown-ups, spending time together in their garden. The Common Ground Garden looks fairly free-form because it is not organized into raised beds. But all the gardeners are well aware which of the 10-foot by 10-foot plots they are responsible for. This year there have been 11 families cultivating 20 plots, and there is already a waiting list for next year's garden. Now let's meet gardeners Yvonne and Reggie Vestal, who live nearby. Yvonne is picking some of her own green beans. She's explaining that sometimes they'll have their veggies for a meal that same day, and sometimes she blanches them and then uses the food preserver to freeze them to enjoy later or during the winter. Now here's Reggie with some cucumbers from a plot they share with another family. 1 cucumber to give to a neighbor and 2 for Yvonne to pack up and bring home. Yvonne says she loves the peace she finds in the garden every day. But she also likes the money she saves at the grocery store. We've asked Yvonne to show us what else is growing in this plot. Bright red and green peppers, a perfect head of broccoli, green beans, attached like wings on either side of their stem, plum tomatoes ripe for picking, a deep yellow squash usually hidden by leaves and shade, and a fine stand of bell peppers. The surrounding chain-link fence is new this summer. It was provided and installed by a local faith-based community group. The fence keeps out deer and other garden predators and establishes the garden as a special place. The marigolds and other flowers that some gardeners plant also help to repel garden pests. Like these marigolds guarding the cabbage. And add a happy spot of color to the 50 shades of green. Tomatoes and giant callaloo are a popular combination. Here Audra and her baby daughter are picking herbs, while Ella busies herself in the pepper patch. She's happy to show us her harvest. Looks like baby Kaylee wants to help too. This colorful harvest basket that Ella is helping to fill, with its dazzling mix of garden-fresh vegetables, could be a picture in a magazine. But Ella and Claire will be taking the real thing home, and when they sit down for dinner tonight, they'll find a happy and healthy garden on their plates.